Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about buying your first luxury watch and what that process is like. And then I'll get into 5 of my recommendations for first-time luxury watch buyers. So firstly, there's 3 major considerations I think you need to look at before you make purchase of your first big luxury watch. It's a big purchase. It can be a little bit scary. So let's walk through a few of the things. So firstly, price is important. The next thing is the purpose of the watch. And third is, what do you like? What brand do you like? What aesthetic? So those are the 3 things that we'll be talking about here. The first place to start, in my opinion, is with budget. Now, if you're lucky enough that you don't have a budget, then that's great. You don't need to worry about it. But most of us do have a budget, especially for your first watch. You're not going to just go spend whatever. You usually have a set price target and you want to find something that's in that price range. But knowing your budget can actually really help you narrow down from the massive selection of watches that are on the market to a little bit more manageable section of watches that, from different brands or different segments that you're interested in and fit within your budget. Now, there are a lot of factors that impact the price of a watch, the quality and the complication of the movement, whether or not the movement and whatever other components are made in-house, and then the materials that are used in the movements and the cases, and whether or not there's any precious metals used in it. That usually has a major impact on the price of the watch, or if there's, diamonds or whatnot in the dial or the bezel, again, that has a huge impact on the price. And, the craftsmanship that goes into it. How much handwork was done in assembling the watch or finishing the movement or, even finishing the case itself. Those have a huge impact on the price. And finally, the demand for the watch and obviously the brand that you're paying for. A lot of times you pay a lot more for a watch that comes from a certain brand than you would if it was coming from a different brand. Now, the next thing to consider is the purpose of the watch. What are you going to do with the watch? How do you plan on wearing it? What is your lifestyle like? And what can it accommodate in terms of watches? Now, if you plan on wearing your watch a lot and it's the start of your collection, I would suggest going with something that's versatile in both its design and its usability. Now, if you pick a watch that's really out there, maybe it's got a really unique color scheme, it's bright, it's vibrant, it's different, that's cool, but being your first watch, it can be hard to wear it every day continuously and continue to make it work with all of your outfits. And you kind of start to get watch fatigue, seeing it on your wrist all the time. I know that sounds crazy, but it does happen. And I'm not saying it needs to be a boring watch, but I think it's important to pick a watch that is a bit more classic and maybe even a bit more subtle and allows you to wear it every day. And it's going to just kind of fit seamlessly in with whatever you're wearing on a daily basis. Now, if you're planning on buying more watches right away, then this doesn't really matter. You're going to have more options to choose from anyway. Or if you do have other watches, that's different. But often when it's your first luxury watch, this is going to be one that you're wearing quite often. So you want to make it something that's versatile. Another thing to consider is whether or not you work in an office or you work outside or doing physical labor. That's going to impact the type of watch that you can wear every day. Because if you're wearing something in the office, you can get away with kind of wearing anything. Don't have to be too worried about it. But if you're outside, it's getting bashed around, whatever, you're going to want something that's a lot more durable and can withstand that everyday wear and tear. And the final thing to think about before buying a watch is, what do you like? What brands stand out to you? Ultimately, this is your watch. You want to like it. You're going to wear it all the time. So make sure that's something that you actually like. Now, there's a ton of watch brands out there, so it can be a little overwhelming at first to start going through them and learning about them and finding which ones you sort of like or don't like or align with. But, take the time, go through them, learn about them, and you'll start to find ones that you do enjoy more than others. And don't let anyone tell you which brands you should or shouldn't like or are good or bad. At the end of the day, again, it's your watch. If you like it, that's what great, and that's what matters. Now, one mistake that I see people make often when buying their first luxury watch is not getting the watch that they actually want and sort of settling for one that's, a little bit less expensive and not the one that they actually want, though, at the end of the day. And the problem with this is that eventually you're going to end up buying that one that you really wanted. And that sort of intermediary watch that you bought was just a stepping stone to get there. So in my opinion, it's better if you can't quite afford the one that you really want, save up a bit longer and wait and get the one that you really want. Because you're going to end up buying it anyway. So at the end of the day, now you've spent even more money getting both of the watches when you could have just saved up and got the one. And it's not necessarily that intermediary watch was bad. I often hear people just say that they wish they had have got the one that they really wanted, and now they're going to try and sell that intermediary watch, usually at a loss because they're not typically watches that are in high demand. So if you can wait, save up, get the watch that you really want. All right, let's get into the actual watches now. First off, we're going to start out with the big hitter, Rolex. Now, I'm a big fan of pretty much all the Rolex lineup, but if I was starting out and buying my first luxury watch, I would personally go for a 36mm Explorer version 1 in steel. I think the simplicity and the durability of the Explorer make it the perfect everyday wear. It's built to an incredibly high standard and would be something that you can pass down to your kids one day. They retail for about $7,000 US or 9,500 Canadian if you live in Canada like me. And the Explorer really fits into your life wherever you need it to, whether that's at work, wearing a suit, or just a casual outfit, or you're going on a rugged adventure. That Explorer is going to check every box. And the Explorer has a rich history dating all the way back to 1953. And the first prototype of an Explorer was actually worn by Sir Edmund Hillary as he ascended Mount Everest. So a really cool piece of history there. And trust me, Rolex won't ever let you forget that. And because Explorers have been around for so long and they're so popular, you can get used ones from reputable sellers for good prices, like this one from Tropical Watch for just under $5K USD. If that's more in your budget, it's a great way to get this watch at a little bit lesser price. And because they're such great watches in terms of durability, you don't have to worry about buying a slightly older used one. You know they're still going to be in great condition and last for a long time. And owning an Explorer will get you a lot of respect from most watch collectors, as it's widely appreciated for its utilitarian design and build, as well as the understated appearance of it. That's a great overall watch. I think you'll love it. My next suggestion is from Grand Seiko, and it's the SBGA 211, which is also going for around $6,500 US or about 9,000 Canadian. Now, Grand Seiko makes some of the most technically perfect movements with incredible precision. The biggest issue I have with Grand Seiko is their naming convention. I have such a hard time remembering and understanding their naming convention. I'm sure it's quite simple. I just can't figure it out. But there are always some combination of letters and numbers that I just can't remember. Now, Grand Seiko is one of those, if you know brands, and people who like them really like them. They have a cult following, and for good reason. The level of craftsmanship and attention to detail in their dials is amazing, and a lot of the precision molding is still done by hand, which is incredible if you think about the size of Grand Seiko. And their movements are incredibly durable and accurate, and their latest spring drive system is so advanced that the latest release has an accuracy of plus or minus 20 seconds per year. Not per month, per year. Now, this is thanks to an integrated circuit board that's actually inside the movement. So it's a combination of a mechanical movement with electronic components. And this helps it regulate the high torque of the mainspring to even out the release of the energy. This brings together the best of both worlds from mechanical watchmaking and quartz watches. Now, this is truly watchmaking that you shouldn't be able to get for this price, but thankfully you can. With any other brand, you'd end up paying a lot more for this level of quality and craftsmanship in a watch. And thankfully, Grand Seiko continue to make these amazing watches at a really fair price. Now, my third suggestion is the Cartier tank, a classic. And there are so many variations of the tank with a wide price range. The one I'm talking about for this video is the classic tank must. It's the most affordable version of the tank with a mechanical movement, and it comes in at exactly $5,000 USD, making it the most affordable of the options so far. And if you're not too worried about getting a mechanical movement, there are some lower priced models that have quartz movements, but I personally, if I'm buying a luxury watch, I want the mechanical movement. That's what I appreciate most about these watches, so I'm definitely going for the mechanical movement myself, but it's a way to get into a watch that you really like at a bit of a lower price point if that's in your budget. And if you prefer a metal bracelet, you can go for something like the Tank Francais for just a little bit more. Now, the Tank is truly a timeless watch, and if taken care of, it'll be a watch that you have for the rest of your life. And the great thing about the design is that you can wear it with, again, any sort of outfit. It's really versatile that way. You can wear it casually, you can really dress them up, you can wear them with a suit, whatever. It'll fit with any part of your life. And you know you're buying something of lasting quality from a company that's been making mechanical watches for over 120 years, so you know they know what they're doing. Often brands like Cartier that also create high jewelry tend to, focus on high jewelry more than watchmaking, and sometimes you see the watchmaking suffer a bit, but not with Cartier. They just continue to improve on their watchmaking and release better and better watches. Next up on my list of watches is the Tudor Black Bay. Now, like the tank, the Black Bay has many different variations, but unlike the tank, all the variations of the Black Bay sort of fit within the same price range, whether it's the 58, the GMT, the chronograph, whatever. They're all kind of in the same price range, and I think they're all sort of good first starter watches. Now, the one that I think is the best starter watch and is probably their most popular is the Black Bay 58. It's their version of a dive watch, and as Rolex and Tudor are sister companies, it's essentially their Submariner. In fact, Tudor used to make a Submariner with some Rolex parts, and they used to make this oyster prints. There's a lot of overlap between Tudor and Rolex in the past. However, today, they're very separate, and Rolex is very intentional about keeping them apart. And as I mentioned before, there's many other variations like this GMT. I think that they do a great job of the GMT. I really like it. They also have a chronograph. Both beautiful watches. I personally prefer the GMT a little bit more. Now, the Black Bay 58 comes in at just under 4,000 USD, so it's on the less expensive side, and it's a great value for the watch that you're getting. Now, the chronograph comes in at around 5,300, making it one of the most expensive versions of the Black Bay, other than the special editions. But again, this is still a really attainable price point for a first luxury watch, and a great option if you're looking for a chronograph. And if the Black Bay doesn't do it for you, Tudor has several other lineups full of great starter watches, like the Ranger, which is their version of the Explorer, or the Royal, which is their version of a Datejust or a Day-Date. And one of my personal favorites from Tudor is the Pelagos. It's a serious dive watch that comes in titanium. It's got a helium escape valve, and there's a special version, the FXD, that was made in tribute to the watches that Tudor used to make for the Navy SEALs. In their words, it's a modern day Milsa. So Tudor is all around a great place to start when looking for your first luxury watch. It's usually the first place I send people when they tell me they're interested in getting a nice watch, because again, they have so many options at great price points, and they have a lot of variety in the type of watch you can get. The next watch I want to talk about is from Omega. And like Rolex, I think Omega is one of those names that a lot of people know about. So even if you're not a watch enthusiast or a watch collector, people know about Omega. They've done a great job of advertising in the mainstream. You see a lot of celebrities wearing them. You see them in movies. So they've done a great job of capturing that, first-time watch buyer's attention of, oh, hey, this is a great brand to buy from. And the nice thing is that unlike Rolex, you usually don't have to get on a wait list for an Omega. You can walk in, buy the watch. A lot of people really like that about Omega. The watch itself is part of their Seamaster lineup. It's the Aquaterra. And don't let the name fool you. Although it sounds very nautical, it doesn't look like a traditional diver with, ceramic bezel, although it does have the benefit of 150 meters of water resistance. This is a great watch. It's subtle enough for daily wear. It can be dressed up or down. And unlike a lot of other watches, Omega actually allow you to swap the straps for leather or even rubber on this too. So this is a great way to make a watch feel new and different and fresh, especially if you have, a smaller collection or this is your first watch. It's a great way to make that watch, go a lot further. Omega are known for having some of the most advanced and accurate movements. Even entry-level movements all use their coaxial escapement. And like most Omegas, the Aquaterra has an exhibition case back so you can appreciate the movement and watch it work in real time, which I know new watch collectors always get excited about. I know I did with my first watch. It's always fun to watch the movement. And no matter how far down the line, it's always exciting. And no matter how far down the line you get with watch collecting, it's always exciting to see a movement. Now, if none of the watches I've showed you so far sparked your interest, I have one more suggestion, and it's the Mark 20 from IWC. And this is kind of in the same price range as the other ones. It's around 6,500 USD. Depending on the spec, it might change a little bit. If you want a metal bracelet or leather or whatnot, it'll be slightly more expensive. Now, unlike the other brands I've talked about so far, IWC has a rich history in aviation and making pilots' watches. And during World War II, they were actually making watches for both sides of the war. But lately, IWC's become a bit of a polarizing brand, and with a long, rich history dating all the way back to 1868. The brand has had its ups and downs, obviously, like any brand, but for the most part, it was owned privately by individuals and families throughout this time. But since 2000, the brand has been under control of the Richemont Group. Now, there are mixed feelings about the Richemont Group and how they manage the brands that they own. And in the early days of their ownership of IWC, I can kind of understand why people were frustrated. But in the last 5 or 6 years, the watches that IWC have been creating are nothing short of impressive. And I think they're really starting to, stretch their legs a little bit and showcase their watchmaking prowess. For example, this lineup of ceramic big pilots is amazing. And I think that if they continue to innovate like this and push the boundaries on materials and different innovations like that, I think that IWC is going to, continue to kind of climb the ranks. And that was a bit of a tangent about IWC and, watchmaking in general, but I think it's also important that you understand the brand that you're buying from and the history of the brand too, not just the watch itself. Now the Mark 20, it's simple, it's clean, it's got a really nice aesthetic to it, and it's really well laid out. It's easily legible. That's sort of the big thing with a pilot's watch. You need to be able to read it quick. And it comes in several strap and color configurations. I personally love it on the metal bracelet, but I'm just a metal bracelet guy. I think the rubber looks really nice as well too. And like all the other watches we've talked about, this is a watch that you can wear for pretty much any occasion, whether it's casual, dressed up. You can always swap out the bracelet too for a leather strap if you want to keep it feeling fresh. And I think now is a great time to get into an IWC. And with buying your first luxury watch, I would suggest trying to get it from an authorized dealer. It can be a really great experience. They treat you really well. It's fun, it's memorable, it's something you'll always remember. And I really think that, being your first luxury watch, you should try and get it from an authorized dealer. This way, you also know the watch you're getting is legit. Down the line, as you get more comfortable with watches and you know what you're looking for, it can be great to buy a secondhand watch. You can get things at better prices. But again, I think for this first one, try and stick with an authorized dealer and, have fun with it. Now, there are seemingly endless number of watches in this entry-level luxury segment, and these are just a few of the ones that, I'd considered when I was buying my first luxury watch, and a few that I think are really, really solid options. Obviously, I couldn't cover everything, but I think these will give you a great place to start when you are looking for your first luxury watch. I'd love to hear what watches you're considering for your first luxury purchase, or if you've recently purchased your first luxury watch, I'd love to hear about that too. Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video.